Mariachi Shadow. There's this street in downtown Mexico City that tourists always end up on. Bright lights, mariachis playing under the open night sky, people drinking, dancing, laughing like the world never ends. It's called Plaza Garibaldi, and even if you don't know the name, you've seen the image before. Big sombreros, silver-studded suits, guitars, and trumpets. The kind of music that hits you in the chest before you even understand the words. I was there once, years ago, for what was supposed to be a harmless night out. A friend of mine, Diego, had promised to show me the real Mexico City. We had tacos from a stand, a few beers, then followed the sound of guitars into the plaza. It was loud, joyful. Everyone was smiling, but at some point, past midnight, the music stopped. All at once. No fading, no clumsy ending. Just gone. The silence hit like someone had pulled a plug out of the world. People looked around, confused. Then, almost as if embarrassed by the pause, the musicians started tuning again, talking, laughing. The moment passed, but Diego looked strange. His smile dropped. "You heard that, right?" he asked. "Yeah, it got quiet." "So what?" He just shook his head. "No, not that." "Didn't you see it?" He wouldn't explain, said I probably just missed it. I thought he was drunk. Later, when we walked away from the plaza, he insisted on taking a longer route, around the back streets. "Shortcut," he said. But it wasn't. The alleys were narrow, dimly lit, and full of the smell of stale beer and garbage. The music from the plaza echoed faintly behind us, but sometimes, in between notes, it would vanish again, like a skipped record. And then I saw it. At first, I thought it was a person standing by a wall. The shape was too perfect, too human to be a trick of the light. It was holding something, so it looked like a guitar, but there was no sound, no footsteps, no breath. The streetlight flickered, and for a split second I saw its hands move over the strings, but the silence stayed. I swear I could feel the vibration, even without hearing it, like sound pressing through my skull instead of my ears. Diego muttered something in Spanish I didn't understand. Something like "no lo mires, don't look at it," and pulled me back toward the plaza. I remember saying, "It's just a shadow." He said, "Exactly." When we got back to the lights and the noise, he ordered 2 shots of tequila and made me drink one. "It helps," he said. "Helps with what?" "The ringing." I didn't get it until later that night. When I got back to my hotel, I realized my ears were buzzing. It wasn't the usual ringing you get after loud music. This was cleaner, sharper, like the high note of a violin, held forever but never fading. It followed me to sleep. When I woke up, it was still there. Over the next few days, I noticed something worse. Whenever I was in a quiet place, the ringing turned into something like a tune. The plucking of guitar strings, faint but deliberate. I'd hum along without realizing it. I tried to ignore it, told myself it was tinnitus, maybe from the volume that night. But the sound kept changing, like someone was playing inside my head. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps behind the notes. Sometimes laughter, distant, hollow. I called Diego. He didn't answer. A week later, I found out he'd gone missing. Someone told me they'd seen him near the plaza, standing motionless by the fountain, a guitar case at his feet, just staring at nothing. They said he looked calm, peaceful even. No one's seen him since. I tried to leave Mexico the next day, but the sound came with me. On the flight home, the hum was so loud I could barely think. When I landed, I went straight to a doctor. He ran every test, hearing normal, no infection, no neurological issue. He said, "You've just been around loud noise too long." But when I asked him if he heard anything strange, he paused. His face went pale. "I thought the air conditioner was humming," he said quietly. That night I couldn't sleep. The song had changed. It wasn't just guitar anymore. It was a full mariachi arrangement. Trumpets, violins, the steady rhythm of a guitarron, a huge bass guitar. The melody was clear, flawless, but still silent, inside my head only. I tried recording it with my phone. The waveform flickered like it was catching something, but there was no audio. I thought I was losing my mind. I turned on the TV, opened every app that made noise, blasted music. Nothing covered it. At around 3 a.m., I looked out my window, and there it was. A shadow under the streetlight. Human-shaped, holding a guitar. No face. Just darkness in the form of a man. Its hands moved again, softly strumming. No sound. And the ringing in my head synced with the motion perfectly. I couldn't move. My body felt heavy, like gravity had doubled. The window pane rattled, not from wind but from resonance. The strings vibrated inside my skull, and for one horrifying second, I thought I saw my own reflection lift a hand and mimic the strum. The next morning I went back to the plaza. I don't even know why. Maybe I thought confronting it would stop the noise. The mariachis were playing again, loud, cheerful, everything back to normal. But between songs, every time the music stopped, I heard it. The same single chord, echoing in the silence, plucked by no one I could see. I asked one of the older musicians if he'd ever heard of something strange happening when the music stopped. He gave me this tired smile, like he'd been waiting for someone to ask. He said, "The music never stops, senor." "Not really. We just stop hearing it." Then he walked away, tuning his guitar, humming a melody I recognized. The same one still playing in my head. I left that night, but before I did, I looked down one of those side alleys again. It was empty, but I swear there was a shimmer at the end of it, like heat rising off asphalt. And faintly, too faintly for anyone else to hear, a guitar string being plucked. I turned around and kept walking. The ringing's still there. Some nights it's faint. Some nights it's like standing next to an amp. And every time I hear a mariachi song, I know exactly when the silence between notes will hit. That's when I feel it watching, still playing, still waiting for me to listen. The Crossroads marker. There's this road outside of Puebla, one of those narrow, twisting mountain roads that feel like they were carved by hand centuries ago. Locals say it connects a bunch of small towns nobody visits anymore, the kind of places where everyone knows each other, and outsiders stand out just for breathing. I only ended up there because my GPS thought it was a shortcut. It was close to midnight, and I'd been driving for hours. My phone had no signal, and the road was barely wide enough for one car. Every now and then, I'd pass a wooden cross by the side of the road, handmade, weathered, sometimes leaning. Most had red flowers tied to them, wilted but carefully placed. At first, I thought they were just memorials, like the ones you see on American highways after accidents. But there were too many. One at every turn, sometimes two. Always the same kind of flowers, the same faded red ribbon. I didn't know then that the locals call them señales del alma perdida, markers for lost souls. I was getting tired. The road split suddenly, left and right, and there it was again. Another wooden cross. This one stood right in the middle of the fork, like it was guarding both paths. A small bouquet of red carnations lay at its base, petals darkened with dew. I slowed down. My headlights hit the cross just right, and the shadow stretched long across the dirt. That's when I heard it. Something like a whisper, low and muffled, impossible to tell if it was from outside or just my imagination. "Don't stop," I told myself. "You're tired, that's all." But I stopped anyway. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was the eerie stillness of the place. Maybe I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't scared. I opened the door and stepped out. The air was cold and smelled like wet soil. Crickets stopped chirping. The kind of silence that makes your skin prickle. The cross was small, barely up to my waist, and when I got close, I could see someone had carved something into it. Not names or dates, just words, rough and uneven. Vuelve al camino. I didn't know Spanish, but it looked like return to the road. I remember laughing a little, nervous, but trying to shake it off. I don't know what came over me. Fatigue, stupidity, or that drunk kind of arrogance people get when they think they're alone in the dark. I nudged the cross with my shoe. It wobbled. And then, like an idiot, I kicked it over. The instant it hit the ground, I felt something. Like the air got heavier, thicker. My headlights flickered. And then came the voice. Go back. Not loud, not clear. Just there. It wasn't in my ears. It was inside my head. I spun around. Nobody. Just the road, the trees, and that silence again. I jumped in the car, slammed the door, and turned the key. The engine roared to life, and I took the left path. After about 10 minutes, I realized I'd been driving uphill. The road twisted more sharply, and the trees seemed to close in. I tried to play music to calm myself, but the radio only hissed. And then I saw it, up ahead, my headlights sweeping across the road. The same split, the same wooden cross, still standing. The flowers weren't crushed. The dirt around it looked untouched. I froze. My foot hovered over the brake. I knew I'd turned left. I was sure. This had to be a different one. I told myself there were dozens of them, but when I looked closely, I saw the same carved words. Vuelve al camino. Return to the road. Go back, the voice whispered again. Louder this time. I hit the gas. It happened again. And again. Every time I drove away, every turn I took, I came back to that same split. My GPS was useless now. Blank screen. I even tried to mark the road with my headlights on the trees, but the forest looked exactly the same from every direction. I turned the car around, tried the other path. Same result. Once, I thought I saw movement by the cross. Something like a shadow bending over it. Too small to be a person. Too still to be an animal. I blinked, and it was gone. By the fourth time I reached the fork, I was sweating. My hands shook on the wheel. I shouted out the window. Who's there? What do you want? The voice came back, almost gentle now. Go back. I must have driven for hours. The gas gauge dropped to empty. The darkness outside thickened like fog. Somewhere along the line, I stopped fighting it. I just stared at the road ahead. The same cross. The same flowers. I don't even remember stopping the car. I remember opening the door, stepping out. The voice wasn't whispering anymore. It was singing, low and rhythmic, like a lullaby. I walked up to the cross again, kneeling this time, and tried to put it back upright. My hands were shaking so bad, I dropped it twice. When I finally got it to stand, I pressed the dirt around it like that would make a difference. Okay, I whispered. It's fixed. Happy now? The voice didn't answer, but the forest seemed to exhale. The air got lighter. Then everything went black. When I woke up, the sun was rising. I was sitting on the dirt beside my car, door wide open, engine cold. Birds were chirping again. The cross was standing tall, the flowers fresh and bright red. I got back into the car, turned the key. Nothing. Dead battery. My phone had a signal again, but the GPS showed me somewhere I didn't recognize. just blank space on the map. I walked down the road until I found a farmer driving a pickup. He gave me a ride to the nearest village. When I told him where I'd been, he crossed himself. "You saw the crossroads," he said. "That's where the lost souls ask for prayers." I asked, "What happens if you disrespect the cross?" He didn't look at me. "They find their way home," he said, "but you don't." A week later, the police found my car. Same place, same cross. Driver's door open, engine cold. They didn't find me. At least that's what they say. Because every time I close my eyes now, I'm still standing at that fork in the road, headlights on, engine running, and the voice behind me whispers, soft and patient as ever, "Go back." The doll shop of Oaxaca. There's a narrow cobblestone street in Oaxaca that tourists love to walk at sunset. The walls are painted bright pink and orange. The air smells like corn dough and wood smoke. And street musicians play those slow, nostalgic songs that make you want to stay forever. Right in the middle of that street is a little store. No sign, no flashy lights. Locals call it La Casa de Muñecas, the doll house. It sells handmade dolls made from cloth and wood, all dressed in traditional Mexican clothing. Embroidered skirts, ribbons, even tiny sombreros. During the day, it's charming. Children tug at their parents' sleeves, asking for one. Tourists take pictures through the window. The old lady who runs it, Doña Luz, people call her, always smiles, always says the same thing when you leave. Cada muñeca tiene su alma. Every doll has its soul. I went there on my second trip to Mexico, a few years ago. I wasn't planning to. My friend Jeremy dragged me. He'd read about it in some blog that said it was authentic and hauntingly beautiful. We got there around closing time. The sun was down, the sky purple with the last light, and the woman was locking up. Through the dusty window, we could still see the dolls, hundreds of them, lined up neatly on the shelves, all facing outward. Their little glass eyes reflected the streetlights. Jeremy, being Jeremy, tapped on the window. "Creepy," he said, laughing. "They're all watching us." The woman turned the key in the lock, gave us a polite nod, and shuffled off down the alley, leaving the store in darkness. When we passed by again later that night, something felt different. The dolls weren't in their usual places. They were standing closer to the window, rows of them, faces pressed to the glass, looking straight out into the street. Jeremy took a picture and said, "Man, she's got to move these things for effect." Marketing genius. I just laughed it off. Oaxaca has its share of weird folk art. But later, at the bar, he showed me the photo. Every doll in it was staring in the same direction. Not at the camera, at him. The next day we went back to the store. It was open again, filled with that faint smell of glue and sawdust. The shelves looked normal. No weird doll army at the window. Jeremy joked with the shopkeeper. "Those dolls of yours moved last night. You have ghosts or something?" The old lady gave a tired smile. "They like to see the street," she said in Spanish-accented English. "They remember people." He picked up one of the dolls, a small one, about the size of his hand. It had braids made of black yarn and a red ribbon around its waist. "How much?" he asked. She looked at it, then back at him. "Not that one." "Why not?" "She is already owned." That made him laugh. "Okay, sure." He put it back, but when she turned to ring up another doll, he slipped it into his backpack. I told him not to. He grinned and said, "Relax, it's like $5. That night, we stayed at a small hotel near the Zocalo. Old building, clay tile roof, squeaky floors. The kind of place with more charm than comfort. Jeremy dropped the doll on the dresser like a trophy. He joked about it while we drank beers on the balcony. I'll give her back tomorrow. Or maybe I'll put her on eBay. Haunted Mexican doll. Starting bid, $50. Before going to bed, he tossed the doll onto the chair by the window, still laughing about it. I woke up around 3 a.m. to a sound, soft tapping, like someone gently knocking on glass. I thought it was outside, maybe rain, but when I sat up, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The mirror across the room, an old tall one with a wooden frame, was showing more than it should have. In the reflection, I could see Jeremy asleep on his bed, but above him, perched on the headboard, was the doll. Its small face was tilted down, looking directly at him. I turned toward his bed. Nothing there. Just Jeremy snoring, blanket half off. I looked back at the mirror. The doll was still there, unmoving, eyes fixed on him. I whispered his name. He didn't wake up. I grabbed my phone to take a picture, but when I raised it, the reflection changed. The doll wasn't on the bed anymore. It was behind me, standing on the dresser in the mirror's view. I turned. It was gone. The next morning, Jeremy wasn't in his bed. The sheets were smooth, like no one had slept there. The doll was gone too. His backpack was open, his wallet still inside. Passport too. No sign of a struggle. I ran downstairs, asked the front desk if they'd seen him. The clerk shook his head. "Your friend left early," he said. "He gave the lady at the doll shop something." I froze. "The doll?" The clerk nodded. "He said he needed to return it." I ran back to the street, heart pounding, but when I reached the shop, it was already open again. The old woman was behind the counter, same calm smile. On the front shelf near the window was the same small doll, with its black yarn braids and red ribbon, sitting upright. "Where's my friend?" I asked, out of breath. She tilted her head. He went back. "Back where?" She looked at the doll and said softly, "To sleep." I wanted to grab the thing, throw it, demand an explanation. But something about the way it looked stopped me. It was sitting differently now. Legs crossed, hands folded in its lap, like it had been placed with care. And in its tiny wooden fingers was a scrap of fabric. Jeremy's t-shirt. I checked out of the hotel that afternoon and caught the first flight home. I never saw Jeremy again. The police called me 2 weeks later. They said they'd found his phone outside the city, by a dirt road leading into the hills. Last picture taken. A blurry shot of the doll shop window. At night, I sometimes dream of that window. Hundreds of dolls, faces pressed to the glass, staring into the street. And right in the middle, one of them has red ribbon around her waist, and something that looks a lot like a human tooth tied to it. Highway mirror. You talk to enough long-haul drivers, and you start hearing the same stories. Not the usual ghost on the road cliches, not hitchhikers or phantom lights. Something different. Something quieter. They call it the double. Every trucker who's been on Mexico's highways long enough has heard of it. An identical truck that follows you through the night. Always at the same distance, never gaining, never falling behind. At first, it's just lights in the rearview mirror. 2 white points cutting through the dark. But if you keep looking, you start to notice things that shouldn't line up. The color, the shape, the timing of the turns. And then you realize it's your truck. I drive mostly between Oaxaca and Veracruz. It's a long, lonely road, especially past midnight. The asphalt hums, the air feels thick, and even the radio gives up halfway through the mountains. There's this stretch around kilometer 210 that no one likes. No gas stations, no lights, just endless winding lanes, carved into cliffs. Most drivers push through fast. They don't want to stop there. A buddy of mine, Carlos, once told me, If you see yourself in the mirror, don't look again. Just keep driving. I laughed it off. See myself? What, like a ghost? He didn't laugh back. Not a ghost. Something worse. That night, I left Oaxaca around 10 p.m., hauling a refrigerated trailer full of produce. My boss wanted it in Veracruz by morning, so I didn't stop. By the time I hit that empty mountain stretch, it was past 2 a.m. The road dipped and curved like a snake, and the fog was so thick I could barely see past the headlights. I checked the mirror, just out of habit. 2 lights behind me. Far but steady. Another truck. No big deal. Plenty of haulers run this route at night to avoid traffic. Except, it didn't pass me. No matter how much I slowed or sped up, it stayed the same distance behind. Always about 50 meters back, headlights sharp and perfectly centered in my mirrors. I told myself it was just coincidence. Maybe he was using me as a pace car. Still, something about it made my skin crawl. About half an hour later, I pulled into a turnout to check the trailer. Sometimes the locks rattle loose on those old rigs. The other truck slowed down too. I could hear its brakes squealing faintly through the fog. Then it stopped. Same position. Same distance. I couldn't see the driver's cabin through the mist, but I swear the headlights looked too familiar. Like I was looking into a mirror and my own lights were reflecting back. I tried to wave. No response. The longer I stared, the more wrong it felt. The lights weren't brightening or fading with the fog. They were steady, like painted eyes. I got back in the cab fast. The hairs on my arms were standing up. I pulled back onto the highway, pressed the pedal harder. He followed. You know that feeling when someone's walking behind you, perfectly matching your steps? Multiply that by 10 tons of steel and a few hundred miles of dark highway. Every time I checked the mirrors, he was there. I flashed my hazards. Nothing. I honked. Nothing. I even pulled into the middle lane for a bit. He copied. Same moves, every single one. Finally, curiosity or stupidity got the better of me. I squinted at the reflection, trying to catch a detail. That's when I saw it. The number on the front plate. It was my number. My truck's registration. Exact same digits. My stomach dropped. I pulled over hard, tires screaming. I was shaking so bad my teeth clattered. I opened the door to look, but the fog swallowed everything. No sound, no headlights. Nothing behind me. I told myself it must have been a trick of the light. Maybe I'd been driving too long. My brain fogged up. But when I got back inside and checked the mirrors again, the headlights came back on. Closer now. Too close. There's a saying among older drivers down here. If you look too long, you switch places. I never believed in that kind of thing. But that night, I understood why they say it. Because when I looked again, it wasn't headlights I saw. It was a reflection of my own cabin, perfectly mirrored. Even the little air freshener hanging from my rear view was swinging in sync. I turned the wheel to the right, hoping to see if maybe there was some crazy optical illusion happening. And the reflection did the same. Exactly. Like it was mocking me. That's when the voice came. It wasn't loud, more like a whisper from the back seat. Don't look back. I froze. The engine hummed, the road stretched ahead, and for a second, I thought maybe I'd nodded off and was dreaming. But the voice came again, lower this time, like it was right next to my ear. Keep driving. I did. I drove until dawn, eyes glued to the road. The sun came up over the hills, and for a moment, I thought it was over. When I finally stopped at a rest area, I climbed out, exhausted. The air smelled like diesel and coffee, and everything felt too bright. Then I noticed the rear bumper. Smeared soot, a faint dent on the side, like something had nudged me from behind. I walked around to check the back of the trailer. My breath caught. On the mud flap, written clear as day in the dust, were my license numbers. Twice. One was printed normally. The other, directly beneath it, was reversed, like a mirror image. A few days later, I got a call from dispatch. They said a truck matching mine had been found burned out near the Veracruz turnoff. No driver, no cargo. But here's the thing. My truck was fine. I was standing next to it when they told me. They swore the VIN number matched exactly. 2 identical trucks, same company markings, same plates, same scratches on the fender. And no one could explain where the other came from. Carlos was right. It's not a ghost you see out there. It's a copy. And if you ever find yourself driving alone on that road, and a truck shows up behind you, perfectly matching your speed, your moves, even your engine's rhythm, don't look. Don't check the mirrors. Don't even blink. Because once you see yourself on that road, there's only one way. It ends. 2 wrecks. And only one driver ever makes it home. The Mask from the Village Festival. There's a little mountain village in southern Mexico that doesn't show up on most maps. I couldn't even tell you its real name. The locals just call it El Pueblo de las Caras, the Village of Faces. I ended up there by accident one summer while driving through Oaxaca's countryside. My GPS had lost signal hours ago, and the roads were barely more than dirt tracks, twisting through cornfields and jungle. When I finally saw lights and heard music, I figured I'd stumbled into one of those rural festivals that seemed to appear out of nowhere. People were dancing, laughing, selling food. There were paper lanterns hanging from trees, smoke from roasted corn, and meat filling the air, and music played on old speakers that buzzed whenever the bass hit. It wasn't big, maybe 100 people, tops, but the whole place pulsed with this eerie kind of warmth. At the entrance to the plaza, a man was selling masks. They were beautiful in a strange way, hand-painted, all slightly different. Some smiling, some frowning, some with cracks, filled in with gold paint. The kind of thing that makes you want to buy one just to hang on your wall. The vendor was old, with leathery skin and pale eyes that caught the firelight like glass. "You should wear it tonight," he said in Spanish. His voice was slow, like it had to climb out of a hole. I laughed. "For the party?" He smiled, thin and knowing. "No, for who comes after." I thought it was just local superstition. Every small town has its ghost stories. I picked one anyway. A plain white mask with faint red circles around the eyes. When I tried to pay, he shook his head. "You already did," he said. That didn't make any sense, but I didn't argue. Later that night, I joined the festival. Everyone was wearing masks. Some had feathers, some were wooden, some looked almost alive in the torchlight. The music was hypnotic. Drums, flutes, the sound of feet on dirt. Kids ran around waving sparklers, and old women handed out drinks in clay cups. I put my mask on. It was tighter than I expected, almost warm, like it had been worn before. I laughed with a group of strangers, danced, drank something strong and sweet, and forgot about the time. But around midnight, the music stopped. All at once. The crowd froze, every masked face turning toward the edge of the plaza. The lights flickered. Someone whispered something. A prayer, maybe. Then, just like that, everything went back to normal. The band started again, people danced, laughed, as if nothing happened. But I couldn't shake the chill that crawled up my neck. I left the festival around 1 a.m. The road back to my car was quiet. No streetlights, just the moon and the sound of crickets. When I got to the guest house where I was staying, the old woman at the front desk looked at my mask and frowned. "You bought that at the festival?" "Yeah," I said. "Looks cool, right?" She just muttered, "Don't leave it on after midnight." I thought she was joking. I went to my room, took a shower, and hung the mask on a chair by the window. At around 3 a.m., I woke up to knocking. 3 slow knocks. Tuck, tuck, tuck. I sat up. The room was completely dark. Then came a whisper. "Give it back." I froze. The voice wasn't outside. It was close, right at the door. I got up, heart pounding, and crept closer. The knocking started again, louder now, impatient. "Give it back!" I wanted to yell, but my throat wouldn't work. I looked toward the window. The moonlight lit the chair where I'd left the mask. It was gone. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then I saw movement under the door, shadows shifting like feet, but not quite human. The air grew heavy, and I swear I could hear breathing. Slow, steady, right on the other side. I finally found my voice. "Who's there?" No answer, just a whisper that slid under the door, like smoke. "Face. Return. Face." That's when I noticed the mirror on the wall. Someone was standing in it. At first, I thought it was my reflection, but it wasn't. The figure was wearing my mask. The same white face with red rings around the eyes. Only the mask wasn't still. The mouth was moving, stretching, like it was trying to form words. "Give it back." I stumbled backward, grabbed the mask off the floor. I don't even remember dropping it, and ran to the window. I threw it out as hard as I could into the dark. The second it left my hand, the room went quiet. I barely slept. When morning came, I went outside to look. There was no sign of the mask anywhere. I checked under the window, around the guest house, even in the bushes, nothing. But when I walked into the village later that morning, something was wrong. The street where I'd stayed the night before, it was gone. Not just the house, the whole street. No doors, no windows. No marks where buildings should have been. Just blank walls of clay and stone. Smooth and featureless, like they'd never been there at all. The old woman from the front desk wasn't there. Neither was her building. When I asked one of the locals what had happened, he looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "What house?" he said. "There's nothing there." I drove out of that village without looking back. Before I hit the main road, I saw a man standing by a tree. Same old mask vendor. Same pale eyes. He smiled when he saw me. "You gave it back," he said. "Good." I rolled down the window. "What was that thing?" He shrugged. "Not a thing. A person. Maybe even you." And then he turned around and disappeared into the trees, just like that. A year later, I was in another part of Mexico when I saw a news story online about a landslide that hit that same region. The photo showed what was left of the area, cracked hillsides, broken roads. In the background, you could still make out one standing wall. No door, no window, just a faint outline, shaped like a mask.